So welcome everyone. We are preparing for the Bodhisattva Vow, learning about the Bodhisattva Vow. And February 2nd and 3rd, His Holiness Chetseng Rinpoche will be at the Urban Dharma Center in North Carolina, and we'll have the opportunity to take the Bodhisattva directly from him online. So just a quick review. It's most auspicious to take the Bodhisattva vow from a great Bodhisattva, that we are making a commitment to train, that it is a progressive evolution of training, and that training leads to action. And I'm going to read the actual words of the Bodhisattva vow, which should be familiar because it's a part of the aspiration prayer that we say every Sunday. As the Sugatas of old gave birth to the Bodhicitta and progressively established themselves in the training of a Bodhisattva, so I too, for the benefit of beings, shall give birth to that Bodhicitta and progressively train myself in that discipline. And again, I apologize. I take a lot of asthma medicine, which has the side effect of hoarseness. So as we just read in the prayer, we're talking about two stages, aspiration and action. Shantideva describes that really well as wishing to depart and setting out upon the road. So that is the difference. At first, we're cultivating aspiration bodhicitta, and when that reaches a level of wisdom, then we're encouraged to enter action bodhicitta. So the beginning of the path of the practitioner is just learning how not to cause harm to other beings. So we're clearing away obstructions, and as that allows our mind to get clearer and clearer, we develop different levels of mindfulness that allows us a growing capacity, both of aspiration and action. So a traditional example of how that evolution naturally takes place is the three kinds of bodhisattvas. I'm seeing if a menthol will clear my throat a little bit. So the example of three kinds of bodhisattvas are the king, the ferryman, and the shepherd. And so for the most part, the king describes essentially where we are. A good king is concerned with the welfare of their subjects and accumulates the wealth and resources for the country. So from this perspective, this is when we are working on our own heart-mind. We're seeing the level of our ignorance. We're working with our afflictive emotions. We see our lack of mindfulness, so we develop mindfulness, and we train in the Dharma extensively. And I think as modern students, we always want to get to the top quickly. So there's a sense of, why is there an emphasis on training? And if we look at just world history, if we look at colonists, if we look at missionaries, they all had good intention. They all, or let's to a degree, some started out with good intention and mindfulness and caused such extensive harm that hundreds of years aren't enough to prepare the harm. So we're not jumping into action until we really understand the state of our own minds, our actions, and their consequences. The next stage is ferryman. And a ferryman, here in Maine, we have lots of ferries. So the captain of the ferry takes a whole group, as many people as can fit on the boat, from one side of the water to the other shore, or the other side of the water. So in this stage, we're starting to be able to move from the protective bubble of our own self-absorption to use whatever arises in our daily life as a practice method to connect with others, to see the suffering of others, and rededicate ourselves over and over again to the aspiration of benefiting others. We start training in the first 5 perfections: generosity, discipline, patience, enthusiastic effort, and concentration. And each perfection has extraordinary qualities and benefits of opening our heart-mind. And then the third example is that of a shepherd. And this is where our aspiration to benefit all sentient beings meets with the wisdom of skillful means, how to benefit all sentient beings. So we're able to carry sentient beings with the teachings, with the conditions, and with the aspiration that they are going first ahead of us into liberation. So for today, we're going to look at what is the training more specifically, and what weakens or breaks the commitment of both aspiration and action to benefit all sentient beings. So first we train in the aspiration. And we see the aspiration actually in the first prayer that we do in our opening prayers, in the sense of never forsaking sentient beings from one's heart. So our opening prayer is about especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me. So on the one hand, we have this vow not to forsake those who have caused harm to ourselves and to our family, but it also is not giving in to the wisdom of despair, thinking, I can't benefit Ukraine, I can't benefit Israel, Palestine, so I won't think about them. So I'll just let go of my intention relative to them because it's overwhelming. So we train in the aspiration so that we're not forsaking anyone, we're not giving in to despair or overwhelm, and we're learning how to simply relax and keep our hearts open. And the training guidelines are, well, how do we do that? We reflect on the commitment and the benefits multiple times a day. So the excuse me, the opening and closing prayers that we might be doing in a practice session, morning and evenings, for instance, we're recollecting refuge, we're recollecting the Bodhisattva Vow and the benefits of the Bodhisattva Vow multiple times. So calling to mind, even we break the day into 6 sessions, calling to mind our refuge and Bodhisattva Vow every few hours. So this strengthens our commitment and it actually changes our minds. So it changes our habitual patterns. We have, those of us who have been seduced by Western culture, have grown up in a very materialistic culture, in a culture of winners and losers, in a culture of me first. And just by repeating, may I benefit all sentient beings, may all sentient beings have happiness, over and over and over again, we can't hold that old habitual pattern. In fact, that old habitual pattern gets, due to the plasticity of our brain, gets discarded as we strengthen, may I benefit all sentient beings, however it arises, however it needs, exemplified in the opening prayers that we do. Then there is gathering the two accumulations. The two accumulations are easily defined as merit and wisdom, but what does that mean? So once we're in the king stage, we're gathering the two accumulations. We're learning about the 10 virtues, and we are learning about the subtlety of all the depth of the 10 virtues. And eventually, we're learning about how to hold our thoughts, our intentions, and our actions regarding the 10 virtues inseparably from the 3 spheres, or inseparably with the impermanence and emptiness, boundlessness of manifesting appearances of self, action, and other. The next category of training is practicing this aspiring mind repeatedly. So all the meditations we do on loving kindness, all the purification practices of once we begin to hold vows, the benefits of confession or transparency, both personally and in our community, the benefits of keeping ethics, and abstaining from actions that cause harm. So that we start practicing more and more often, more and more inseparable from the behaviors, thoughts, and actions that we carry throughout the day. So essentially, we can look at the major 4 non-virtues that are defined as not telling lies consciously, particularly not deceiving our Lama or teacher, establishing all beings in virtue. So our actions are, come, let's go to the Dharma class, instead of come, let's go to the bar. Seeing all bodhisattvas as their fulfilled nature of Buddhas, and rejoicing and proclaiming their qualities. So, for instance, extolling the virtues of His Holiness, saying how rare this opportunity is, how much we want to go online and take the Bodhisattva vow with him, is this kind of proclaiming the qualities and rejoicing in the virtue. And maintaining an altruistic attitude towards all sentient beings. So, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, I'm still going to maintain an altruistic attitude of, can I even keep my mind neutral? And from the neutrality, can I move towards benefiting them and holding them ahead of me? So those are the trainings in aspiration bodhicitta. Then the training in action bodhicitta is simply an evolution or expansion of that. So making the commitments formally, receiving refuge vow, receiving bodhisattva vow, and in our tradition, receiving Vajrayana vows. Training in superior thought. So we're training in a continuum of understanding the 5 paramitas at greater levels of shedding fear, and greater levels of understanding. What do they mean to me in understanding them simultaneously with no self, no action, no other. And the third is training in superior wisdom, which is the realization of emptiness, and in the realization of emptiness, continuing superior morality and training in superior thought. So the jewel ornament of liberation points out that this is all like a flower blooming. This is all the order of how your mind naturally develops as you practice the Dharma. And I'm going to quote now from the jewel ornament. Through the practice of generosity, one accepts pure morality. So sometimes we think of ethics or discipline as rules or shoulds or limitations, as opposed to through the practice of generosity, we begin to understand that it's extending generosity towards ourselves and towards others to hold pure ethics. And that it is generosity without material concerns. When one has moral ethics, one will have patience. When one has patience, one can make efforts with perseverance. If you're not wasting your time with the stories of why they're bad and why I'm wonderful, if we're not lost in habitual patterns of anger and addiction, then we have plenty of time for enthusiastic effort or perseverance. And through the combination of all of these, we are able to have more unremitting mindfulness, so concentration evolves and we can perfect concentration. Sometimes in meditation, and I know I didn't understand in my early years of meditation why the importance of perfecting concentration was so emphasized, and how without concentration, all further meditation is hindered. So we see that the more we understand of the earlier stages, the more we understand mindfulness and concentration. And all of that then leads to a realization of perfect wisdom. So that's the training in action bodhicitta. Then what causes us to lose our Bodhisattva vow? And oh no, what do we do if we lose our Bodhisattva vow? So the cause of losing the Bodhisattva vow is losing aspiration and action mind. And having just listed what those were, we can say, okay, we lose our Bodhisattva vow when we forsake others intentionally, and when we adopt the 4 unwholesome deeds. So if we were to then point out what language we might use, deceiving the Lama, or in any way consciously lying, defrauding sentient beings, and in the verses of Shantideva, his anguish cry of, well, if I break this commitment, I've lied to sentient beings. I made this commitment to all sentient beings, and then, how can I possibly forget this vow and let down all sentient beings? The next is causing remorse in others when it's not appropriate. So if we criticize someone who is acting generously, or try to hold someone back and they experience remorse, or if we see beginning students and make fun of them. This happens sometimes in sanghas. Oh, you didn't know you were supposed to do that. Oh, you're such a beginner, causing them remorse. The next category is through aversion or being afflicted with poisonous emotions, saying improper words about bodhisattvas, or finally behaving deceitfully in any way towards sentient beings. So if we had to put it all together in a simple way, we lose our bodhicitta mind when we forget our aspiration to benefit all sentient beings, and when we decrease our curiosity and love of training in how we can benefit sentient beings, and either let go of that or create a wrong view in that, oh, this is not necessary, or I can't do this, or it's not possible. All those kinds of things weaken the vow, but the most important thing is not forsaking any sentient being, especially due to hatred. So then, being human beings, we hear the news and we get angry. We lose patience. How do we repair the vow? We repair the vow by reminding ourselves that this aspiration not only is extraordinary, but even the capacity to hear it, even the capacity to learn about it, even the capacity to have texts and hear teachers is such a precious life. You know, just by bringing that back to mind, it restores almost any level of breaking the vow. If we break our vow in anger or in hatred, it should just be taken again. So we can take again in front of a picture with a spiritual friend or with a great bodhisattva like His Holiness. And if we break the vow in anger or with any of the poisonous emotions attached to it, it's also very helpful practice and part of a detailed explanation of restoring the vow to be transparent openly with other bodhisattvas or spiritual friends. So let's say in a monastic community, you would go to a senior monk or nun, and here you might want to go to a senior practitioner and say, I really lost it the other day, and I said this. And then retake the vow again. And what is the vow? The vow is this very beautiful part of the Bodhisattva prayer that we do every single practice that we do together as a Sangha. As the Sugatas of old gave birth to the bodhicitta, so bodhisattvas becoming Buddhas at some point, like a flash of lightning in the dark of night, they gave birth to the bodhicitta and progressively established themselves in the training of a bodhisattva. So I too, for the benefit of beings, shall give birth to that bodhicitta and progressively train myself in that discipline. So this is a lot of fairly technical information about the Bodhisattva vow. And remember that your Buddha nature naturally wants to wake up. Your altruism is guiding you towards curiosity in the teachings. And just the fact that you're coming to these classes means you're entering into the training, and we have multiple opportunities to take the vow. We take the vow every morning when we meet as a group, and we'll be taking the vow formally with His Holiness. Most of you will be online, and how incredible an opportunity that is. So I wanted to say something about generosity, because remember, generosity is the first of the paramitas. So I was about to write Urban Dharma if we could make an offering, a formal offering while we were there. So those of you who are going to be taking the Bodhisattva vow and want to make an offering directly towards His Holiness, exploring training in generosity, anything that comes in this week through PayPal will add to the offering that we're going to make. And I remember that Pema Chodron at Gampo Abbey, when she taught what's in the book, Nothing to Lose, that was a winter training that she did while I was there. She had everyone take the Bodhisattva vow, and she offered the Bodhisattva vow for the first time. And she was saying that before, in her tradition, before you take the Bodhisattva vow, you make a gift, and it has to be precious to you so that a little bit of Shenpa arises in, can I do this really? Can I give this away? I'm not sure. Can I give this away? But then you conquer that without remorse. If it's too much, then afterwards you're saying to yourself, oh, I shouldn't have done that. That was too much. Why did I do that? And you're starting a negative thinking that's weakening your generosity. But if you're saying, oh, I noticed that this, I'm trying to see, oh, yes, Allison Baird makes these beautiful Tara satsas, and I'm taking that down as one of our offerings to His Holiness and to Urban Dharma. And I only have 2 of them left. So I'm thinking I really like the way it looks. I get to see it every day, but I think I can stretch and take both of them. So let's reflect on, really there's so much information included in all of these preparations for the Bodhisattva vow. But today, that sense of not forsaking anyone from one's heart, and what does training look like? And am I worried about making a formal commitment? And can I take in that I can take this vow over and over and over again? So taking the vow and being imperfect and weakening it or losing it is better than not taking the vow. So we can take the vow over and over and over again. Let's sit with this, and then there'll be a time for questions and answers.
Khenmo, you're muted.
Thank you. Bodhicitta, excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline.